Hi, I'm Matthew, and I'm one of the vehicle artists at Rivet Games, and today I'm going to talk about some of the development of the Class 150. To begin with, for tackling the 150, obviously we started with the reference, and we started with doing research. We had a little survey trip where we kind of went out and got to see the train a little bit on the route. So we got a lot of pictures taken for this train, especially under the undercarriage. This train's got like a lot of detailed like engine components and detailed components that are underneath the train, so it was like quite important for us to make sure that we captured all of this so that we could remake this correctly. We also spoke to some drivers and got some drawings and like other information that would help us kind of in the modeling process and creating the train. So we had a good foundation to start modeling and creating the 150. When it came to modeling the Class 150, there was a couple of artists that worked on this. Myself, I worked on modeling the exterior and the passenger interiors. So this train has two units. There's a DMS and a DMSL, so one's got a lavatory and one doesn't. And so I built the interiors with the lavatory and without the lavatory, and obviously the exteriors for both the two variants. And then Ross, one of the other vehicle artists, he built out the entire cab area and did all the controls and made sure all of the animations in the cab worked for the players to be able to drive the train. To begin with modeling this train, what we tend to do is we obviously bring our reference into the 3D software and we kind of lay out basic dimensions and kind of get an overall kind of scale for the train. And then what we do is we will kind of model out a simple block out version of the train, and it'll look something like this. It's very basic. It's kind of got some cylinders and boxes for wheels and like a slightly kind of, it's almost still a box, but we'll put in a bit more detail, like roughly where the doors and windows are for the train. And we use this for a couple of reasons. One, it helps us kind of just visualize the train from the start of the proportions and where everything's going to go. But it also is useful for the setup artists when they're kind of doing the scripting and doing the physics and stuff. They've got something to start working with, because a lot of the times the things that they need to do, they need a model to work with. And if they have to wait for us to give them a complete model, they'll be waiting months before they can even get something to really work on. So this allows us to kind of jump forward a bit and kind of get things rolling. I've taken a number of kind of screenshots over the progress of this train, so you can kind of see a little bit of the process of how we build this up. So I kind of started with this block out, and then what I did from there was kind of start to refine that block out and actually make the windows and the door cutouts for where you enter and exit the door, the train, more detailed. And I started to kind of get the main profile of and the shape of the train kind of refined a bit more. And as we go along, you'll see like I then started to kind of put in more of the details around the front of the train, built out the gangway and the front windows. I then kind of refined that a bit more. It's kind of hard to see, but I put in the headlights and the some of the kind of little details that are around the front of the train. This again is just a little bit of a close-up, and there's a bit more detail here. Now there's some roof components. The gutters are now added in, and some of the kind of the foot plates here have been added in. And then as we go, you'll see like little bits of things changing where we've added more details, put in, and just kind of started to refine the model a bit more. So there I've put in the windows, kind of blocked in the first door, just to get the shape right. There I've refined the doors and put in all the doors. This is me starting the undercarriage and putting in all the details that go in here. So a lot of them will start out as simple boxes so that we get the kind of main shapes and the sizes right, and then from there we'll kind of refine those shapes and add in more details as we go. So you'll see this has jumped on it quite a bit now. I've made the bogies and put in more of the undercarriage equipment. And again, here, this is obviously at some point I took away the rest of the train and I was focusing on the bogies, putting in the details, because these bogies have quite a lot of details and parts and stuff that are in there that you kind of want to be able to replicate as we go. This is the train kind of more coming together. There's still quite a bit of the undercarriage area that needs to be refined and added in, especially near the back here where the main engine is. And again, this is me jumped forward again, so I've put in a lot more detail. I've put in a lot of the pipes and cables and all the detail that kind of comes in here. And this is almost the train complete at this point. And you can kind of see I've got these like these are the bones where I've actually rigged the train now. And if I actually go into our model, so at this point here I've got the train modeled, and I've actually applied some textures to it in the 3D package. And we also have the skeleton in here, so I can now come in and animate the train, so we can move the doors, and we'll be able to animate the wipers and all of that kind of thing. That's kind of how we build it up and go through that process. Obviously, from the end of modeling to this point, we would have UV mapped it, and I can kind of show you what the UV mapping looks like. This is a very long kind of process where we come in and we basically, it's like basically the model been flattened out, and yeah, this takes a while to go through each piece of the model so that we can actually accurately texture it and make it look nice. So I've done that. And yeah, once we do that, then we normally go on to rigging it so that we can animate it. And that's just a process of figuring out all the different components in the train. So mostly it's the doors, the windows, the wipers, the gangways. If I grab this and move this back on the correct axis, you'll see we animate these. So it's just figuring out what we need to animate, and then we kind of assign those pieces of those meshes to these bones, and it allows us to have everything move when the player interacts with the train. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a kind of a good overview of how this kind of model evolved over the project, and we kind of tackled the modeling of this. So once the UV mapping is done and we've rigged the train, what we'll do is we'll move on to the texturing. And for this project, I'll show some of the texturing that we did for the cab that Ross did. And yeah, it'll give you a kind of a bigger, broader overview of this train. So obviously the software we tend to use for our texturing is Substance Painter. And what we'll do is we'll bring in the model that we're going to work on. In this case, this is the cab, and I'll just give you a little look around of the cab. You kind of have this little like compartment that you come into. There's a second seat in here, and this cab also has a very interesting door on the front, which kind of opens up and isolates the two compartments from each other. But yeah, if we come in here, this is basically the main area that the driver will be in most of the time when they're driving the Class 150. And when we bring in the train, normally it'll look, it'll be pretty bare with just, it'll just be white clay model with not much in here. And what we'll do is we'll kind of use the software to bake out the lighting and any kind of normal details that we want to like represent on the train. So this is like one of the areas which will bake in details. So we've got like little screws which will have fake details that kind of get added into the model, and we'll bake these out in here, and then we'll slowly build up kind of dirt and rust and kind of metal on these little screws. And so you'll see there's like a lot of screws in this train and a lot of fine kind of details that we've baked into the textures. If I take away the dirt and open this up, this is how we kind of build up our texturing. So we've got a lot of layers and a lot of folders of materials that we'll build up. And if I try and hide some of these, it'll take a little while, but if I hide some of these, you can kind of get an idea of, we'll basically tackle each little component in the train or in the cab, and kind of add the materials, add the details, and refine the materials so that it looks as good as we can make it. With the train as it's textured now, it's got a lot of little decals and details, information on the train, and even our little screws and stuff like that. But for the main texture, what we'll do is we'll start kind of isolating things and building things up. So this is obviously the main desk, and this will be the base texture for this desk. And as we add on, as we unhide all of these layers, we'll start to build up details around the train. This is some of the detail on the wall that's kind of got been unhidden. And as I unhide some of these other pieces, you'll see, and there's so many because we break down these all of these components into every tiny little piece so that we can have full control over how we're texturing this so that it looks as good as the reference. So as you can see, as I turn this on, you'll see more and more components. And each one of these layers is pretty simple. It's usually just some color information and some roughness information, which allows us to kind of simulate how smooth or rough the surface of that object is. And there might be like other little bits of information in there, like if there's like some sort of pattern in the material, we'll kind of add that in. But generally what we'll do is we'll kind of texture this as clean as possible while it's still making it look real. And then what we'll do is we'll add dirt at the end. So as I unhide a lot of these layers, you kind of see more and more being added into the scene. And look from this angle here, you might see a bit more. So you can see like the floor got added in there, the details in the floor. And the floor is obviously one where we'll have a bit more going on because these floors are made of like different kinds of materials added together to kind of make the same effect. And here's one where we've kind of put in a bit of weathering, but it's still quite clean. It's just got some scratches and chips paint, but the real weathering will come after. And as I kind of add in more of these, you'll start to see the seat fabrics come in. And so that's most of the texturing there. And then what we'll do is if I turn on the main dirt area, you'll kind of see, if I turn it on and off, you'll see like it adds in a bit more ambient occlusion to it, and you get more dirt in the corners, and it kind of just like makes everything feel more grounded. And if we come over here, you'll be able to see a bit of the grounding of how it gets a little bit of dirt and kind of weathering in the corners of the objects. So that's kind of what the process we take, and it's the same for the exterior. We'll kind of start fairly clean. We'll add in our materials and base textures that we want the train to have, and we'll also texture in a clean version of the livery, and then we'll basically slowly add in dirt, and obviously the exterior will be a lot more dirty than the cab because it's exposed to the elements, and we'll build that up. So once we've kind of built up the texturing and got it into a place where we're quite happy with it, what we'll do is obviously we'll export all of these textures and the models into Unreal and bring that into Train Sim World. And when we do that, we'll obviously compile them and bring them all together, and this is the final train in the game. It's mostly there. There's maybe a couple of little bugs that need fixed on this, but it's pretty much there. And you can see obviously the exterior's got all its detail, it's got its textures. We've also added in more components like the coupling. We have it linked up now so that it's all working and it's drivable. And if I come inside here, we can kind of see basically this is the textures that we just saw there. They're now applied in-game, and we've also got materials that we'll set up, and we'll have a little bit more control of what we can do with those materials in UE4. But yeah, once we bring them in, this is kind of what it's looking like. And if I take you through into the passenger compartments, yeah, these were the passenger compartments that I made as well for this. And we've got quite a lot of seats in this train. And the way we did the seats in this train is we basically modeled one or two different versions of the seat, and then we've manually placed them in the game all the way down the train. And this allows us to have the train run just a bit more efficiently when we place the seats in the game. And so Unreal can optimize the train a bit better. And we have this is the lavatory version, so this one's got the bathroom here. And if we come through here and we fly through here, we've got the version with no lavatory, and you'll be able to tell on the outside whether there's one or not is there's a window removed, and basically you've got this small little window here for the lavatory one, and then the one that doesn't, you have two big windows. Yeah, so this is it in game, running and working, and look forward to one of our next videos where Adam will take us through the setup and the more technical side of the vehicle development and doing the semigraph and how he kind of looks at the physics and all of that kind of thing, which will be pretty interesting. I hope you enjoyed this video of the Class 150, and remember to like and subscribe.